HMO Sobbies. It's tricky. Welcome to the 1017 edition of 30 with Tony. It's Thursday afternoon, but to me it's almost Saturday night. And I like Saturday night as that is the night I use to massacre people, so hit it, Fogarty.
Well, hi, Kemosabe's. It's Tony D'Angelo. It is October 17th, 2024, 3 p.m. Eastern, out of Domini in the year of our Lord, and welcome to another edition of 30 with Tony. Our subject today is called Power Surge. And first of all, a little housekeeping. I want to thank each and every one of you who went out of your way to wish me a happy birthday. I'm getting to the point where I don't like cooking at birthdays, but I'm so grateful for that because without your encouragement, without your friendship, and without your support, frankly, I wouldn't be here. And I thank you for it. And thank you for sharing the love back, which I have shared. I've done my best to share to you. And secondly, I want to thank our music contributors. I like to think the music's getting better every week, but and again, my music clock kind of goes like 1982 backwards. So if you give me a song which is relatively more recent than that, and that's going back a ways, I may not catch on to it right away, but I'd be more than willing to listen to it. But I try to get things that sort of fit the mood and fit the shall I say, the tenor and the timbre and the context of what we are doing. So let us begin. Our subject today is Power Surge. And I don't know if you had opportunity on this past Tuesday's show, October 15th, to listen to my segment with Lee Elsey. And we were talking about the hurricanes in North Carolina and in Florida, and the cleanup that was necessary in order to get the whatever's taking place there, which is beyond any sort of, shall I say, comprehension, back to normal. And let's go right into the shares. And I think this will make better sense, if not to you, at least to me. And I want to go back to this tweet. This is a gentleman who has a great following on Twitter. His pen name is DC Drano, and he is a wealth of information. He really is, and provides a lot of what's actually happening, unfiltered by the lens of corporate and opinion paid media masquerading as journalism. We frankly get too much of that today. And one thing that's really an obvious post, and you see, this is the whole thing. It's amazing to me. The obvious is supposed to be evil, wrong, impossible, a conspiracy theory, something. It's not supposed to be, shall we say, the obvious anymore. Like, I have to laugh. Not that it's funny, but the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, and I like him and I like his work. And one of the things he's doing is he's trying to get illegal voters. I mean, the term itself is oxymoronic, but he's trying to get illegal voters off of the voter rolls. And the Biden administration is suing him. Now, it says right in the Virginia charter, in order to vote, you got to be a citizen. And people are registering to vote and they're not citizens, and the government is upset about it. I mean, it's so obvious as to be painful. And when you raise something like that, you're either evil or wrong or wretched or conspiracy theorist or a Trump supporter, which is probably the worst thing you can call anybody. Think however many number of obscenities you can string from end to end, but if you say I support Donald Trump, that's the most obscene thing of all. Like earlier, I was in my barbershop, and I had a gift I wanted to give to my barber, and because he's a big Trump guy, and I said, "You're a Trump guy." And the other three barbers said, "We're all Trump guys." And it's like, try doing that in a lot of public environments. It's like, it's so pitiful. But the First Amendment and the obvious, and the Fourth Amendment and your right to privacy, they don't want you knowing many of that stuff. You got to listen to them. You got to get their teaching. You got to end up in the ditch like the followers of the Reverend Jim Jones. But anyway, this gentleman here, getting back to the matter at hand, this gentleman here talks about the obvious. The hurricanes that took place, Helene and Milton, and the damage is incalculable and unascertainable. And what does this gentleman say? When everything went to hell in the South after the hurricanes, he did not see a convoy of Priuses, windmills, and FEMA social justice warriors coming to save the day. And he says, I saw diesel trucks, heavy tractors, fuel tankers, and a whole lot of bearded good old boys putting some of that toxic masculinity to work, saving lives and rebuilding society. God bless the true backbone of America, the hardworking men and women of the middle class. Now, the middle class he talks about are these guys, not the Kamala Harris middle class, not the state-supported middle class. And that does not mean that if you work for a state government or municipal government, you are inherently evil. It does not mean that, but he's not driving at that. He's driving at quote unquote hardworking slobs with beards, with bulldozers, with diesel fuel, with beer bellies coming down and saving people and hooking up power. Now ask yourself something. We live in a society, we're talking about this on the Lee Elsey show, but today I think it would be apropos to go a little bit forward. We're talking about this on the Lee Elsey show the past week. We live in a society where the bird brains that are in government and are DEEP, like Katie Dykes, hi Katie, want us to think that we can live in this wonderful green universe where nary ever a carbon cloud will be in the sky. And everything will be perfectly, wonderfully great. And when that happens, we will live happily ever after in this totally, completely wonderful utopia of green power. Now, look at what happened here. Okay. Sometimes you got to be obvious to the stupid. Look at what happened here. Look at this army of trucks, which is not nearly enough to free these poor people from the horrible loss, the horrible burden, the horrible devastation that they faced. And they're coming back online with power. And it took trucks from all over to do this, and it's taking trucks right now. So that said, the Prius driving people, nothing against the Prius as such, the windmill people and the social justice people, in order to tippy tap on their computers, they're going to need power, right? In order to charge their iPhones, they're going to need power, right? Why don't they go to their backyard? Well, I see you can't own a home. Owning a home is racist. But why don't they go to the top of their transit-oriented development, set up a little propeller, have the propeller go around so they can charge their iPhone? Guess what? It's not going to work. I hate to tell you something. It's not going to work. So what it basically comes down to is you need diesel fuel. You need heavy equipment. You need rough, tough stuff to get out of the soup and to drive things. Now, here's something else. What about, I'll stop the share here for a moment, if I may. I guess I'm allowed. What about, we hear a lot these days about artificial intelligence, and we hear a lot about electric car power. Now, there's nothing wrong, be very clear, there's nothing wrong with electric cars at all for any reason. The status of the technology of an electric car right now is it's not useful for all types of applications. There's cold weather issues, getting it started. It was the big thing last year in Chicago. All of the Teslas in the rental place could not get started because the weather just went to a certain level, which was pitifully low, and discharged all the batteries. The other thing really is flooding. Now, if your gas-powered car gets flooded, it might get ruined. It probably is going to get ruined. Be careful if you're in the market for a used car and a beautiful so-and-so such and such that you really want for an affordable price shows up on the lot. Might be a flood car, might be a car that was in a floodplain. Somebody like laundered the title and sent it up, and that stuff goes on. So be very, very, very careful about that. But yet that car, when it floods, is not going to cause fires and devastation and all kinds of things. An electric car, sadly, in a lot of cases will. Talking to one of my wonderful friends on Twitter about the electric buses. Now, our clown Department of Transportation went and put in an order for Proterra electric buses. Number one, these things are known, look it up, to go on fire. The city of Philadelphia, how can I put it? The real red Republican-run city of Philadelphia, the perfectly safe city of Philadelphia, the Trump-supporting city of Philadelphia. The people support Trump, but the government doesn't. They put the Proterra buses out of service. What does our idiot DOT do with King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, and Garrett Euclidito, the commissioner? Hi, Garrett. What did they do? They went and bought Proterra buses after Proterra went bankrupt and after these things were known to be fire hazards. And after the Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, a total and complete idiot, but smart enough to insider trade fraudulently in the stock. So she pumped it, and then these buses were sold to all of the cities, and the tax-paying slobs like us had to pay for it. And she walked off, and these buses are useless. And the stock hit a peak, and then with the Infrastructure Act and all that other kind of stuff, and then it just collapsed. And she's walking away with a bag of money. Isn't government service great? But that all said, when you look to see what's happening is you need power. You need raw power to do AI and you need raw power to do e-cars. You're not going to get it no matter what you do. Moron, idiot, numbskull, dreamer. You're not going to get it without fossil fuel. You need fossil fuel to drive the energy to drive both of those applications because the applications are highly energy sensitive. They need energy to run and they need a lot of energy to run. I mean, let's just say you want me to have an e-car. Okay, I'm in. What do I want that e-car to do? Well, I want that e-car to charge as fast as I can get gasoline in my 16-year-old gas-powered Black Beauty. Okay, not much to ask. I'm paying more money for it. I'm paying more taxes for it. I'm fussing around more. So I want the same amount of time convenience. I do not want the government using me as an unpaid part of their research and development team. And I suppose I'm not supposed to say that. If I lived in a communist country, they might drag me out and shoot me for that. And don't think for a moment that's not the gold standard where a lot of these people in government want to take you, okay? Really, if they could get along with it. I'll be very honest with you. I was talking with a young lady. I was getting my car serviced today, and I said, my belief is that the only reason why we have not seen government try to overreach more and more and more is they're a little bit concerned about all the people that own firearms, basically. And they're not. They may be the most oppressive, but in many cases they ain't the bravest. Let me tell you. So, and that's all ugly stuff. But basically, I think we need to get beyond the thing of all government is there to help us. I think we need to look critically. I think we need to look hard. And I think knowing some of the characters we have, both nationally and especially in Connecticut, we've really got to scrutinize what we think their motive might be. And if we're unsure of the motive, to ask them. Of course, if they're not doing a certain thing, they can tell you that and they can be convincing, like, ask me if I'm sitting here with pink bunny ears. Of course, I'm not sitting here with pink bunny ears. So basically, you can hold them accountable. And if they don't answer the question, then you got to wonder. Now, we got this whole media that doesn't ask any questions. It holds no one's feet to the fire and basically is a public relations arm for the Democrat Party in Connecticut and doesn't tell you what's happening. So you say, thank God for Twitter. Thank God for the good independent people who are putting things out and who are putting things out that we need every single day because the quote unquote legitimate media is not doing it. So I said all that to say this. You need power. You need power to run these applications. So how are you going to run AI and e-cars? I'd be perfectly okay with an e-car if I could, charge the e-car like I do my phone. But we ain't there yet. I'm not in the market until that happens. I will very much be in the market if I could do so affordably at some price. In Connecticut, that is a huge doubt, the way the power structure, no pun intended or pun intended with Eversource, is structured. The biggest convoluted political mess that you're ever going to run into. But that all said, so you need fossil fuel. You can't get there any other way. The wind power in New London is not going to generate enough power to efficiently power every single e-car that our lunatic fringe government thinks we need and will, quote unquote, within 11 years say that we must use. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Stop the stupidity, stop the foolishness. But anyway, so I want you to think about that. And I also want you to think that in a God forbid, if Connecticut were hit with something like, we'll go back to the share, if Connecticut were hit with something like this, and given the way our government works, and given our fine, efficient And on top of it, leadership, like Joe Courtney. I mean, honestly, truthfully, thank God nothing has happened in Eastern Connecticut, because all of Eastern Connecticut is under a risk with Joe Courtney. I mean, the man can't communicate. His office is dysfunctional. And I mean, listen, that's a problem. We don't hold government accountable enough for their screw ups. I mean, if I screw up, they will cause high-handed, holy hell in a handbasket to come to me, but somebody like a Joe Courtney can walk away from it. And I get very angry when the Republicans do not pressure Democrats on that, because competency and execution is the key to success. But anyway, so would Connecticut be able to muster that kind of response in the event of a Hurricane Armageddon? Well, how are you going to do it if you get rid of all the diesel trucks? How are you going to do it if you get rid of the gas-powered cars and the gas-powered chainsaws and things like that? You're not. So if that happens, and if that happens sometime in the future, Connecticut is effectively bombed back to the Stone Age. It's basically what it is. And you ask yourself, why does Connecticut have to be bombed back to the Stone Age? Didn't we progress from the Stone Age? Didn't we go through the Industrial Revolution? Didn't we go through automation? Didn't we go through the period of solid state electronics? And now, because of a green dream, we run a safety risk, and we run a risk of being bombed back to the Stone Age because of these idiots. As your taxes go up, as your public benefit charge and Eversource goes up, as there's no accountability. Again, can Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, can sign an executive order on the grounds of a public health emergency, which it will be very soon going into the winter, as people can't pay their electric bills, and shut the thing down until it could be figured out. But he's not going to do it because, number one, there's no money in it for him. There was money in COVID-19 with Semaphore. And number two, he's basically unaccountable. He wants to be able to be governor and effectively make opportunities for his family and tell the rest of us to screw off. But that all said, I'm telling you just the way it is. What does Connecticut do about this? What does Connecticut do to protect its people against storms and devastation, which of course we would need diesel fuel, guys with beer bellies, chainsaws, and all this stuff that the lefty dippy lunatics hate to free us from the morass. They would much rather we be in the Stone Age. But what does Connecticut do? They have something. Here we go. Connecticut is preparing for future storms, according to the state's top environment official. There she is, Katie Dykes. And this is an interesting conglomeration of people. Not really sure who those people are on the right. Actually, we can look at the people that we do know. There's Katie Dykes again. Hi, Katie. Here's the unaccountable. What's that in his hand? I mean, is he grabbing a brew, or is it? I don't know, but for the guy to be unfocused, staring over at something, holding a can of something or other, and I'm the leader of the state. I mean, it's a bad look. But he and Tim Walz, they really don't care how they look. They want to make their inefficiency and their ineptitude and their incompetency packaged into whatever you want to call it, humanity. God help us all. God help us all. Should the rubber meet the road with this man? I can't imagine. Here's Dick Blumenthal. One thing to always say about Dick Blumenthal, whether you love him, whether you hate him, the man is always dressed well. The man always speaks clearly. The man's hair, albeit I know it's dyed, is always neat. He always has a tie on. He's always focused, and he's always showing attention. And that, I have to respect him for that. Look at that and look at that, basically. Here's Justin Elicker. I mean, what is he doing? Playing a game of Pong on his Palm Pilot? I mean, I really, I mean, it's I these guys are about as focused as a lens with chicken grease on it. Here's Katie spewing something or other. No idea who these people are on the right. The lady on the far right doesn't seem to be, quote unquote, that keyed into the proceedings. So here's Katie. And what is Katie talking about? Katie's got a bigger mindset than these guys over here with trucks and power and chainsaws and all kinds of things like that. Katie wants to get to the root cause because, after all, she's Katie. And what she wants to do is say, I'm looking at these storms. I'm looking at these storms. I'm looking at the August flooding. And I'm looking at some of the issues that have happened in Florida and North Carolina. And she wants to get to the top. And she feels that all of this is going to be dealt with in our little postage stamp state of Connecticut by building climate resilience. You know, it's like, I don't know. Could I do this? Could I possibly do this? Map of USA. Hey, Tony, type much? Map of USA. Okay. Here's the map of the United States of America. And we're this little thing over here. You can't even really see it. It's actually Massachusetts. Come down to Connecticut on the scale of that size. We're not even a blip and a blob, but we're going to control the weather so these things do not happen again. So much for my map building skills. Let's get back to the 4-star panel. Let's look at them again. The unaccountable, Blumenthal, Elicker playing on his Palm Pilot, and Katie. Katie's telling us exactly what we need to know, because if Katie can get this to the top, if Katie can control the climate, guess what? We'll never, ever, ever have to be concerned about what North Carolina faced and what Florida faced, because we're going to control climate and this is going to do everything. You saw how big Connecticut is. You saw its size impact of the world. Let's move on. We're looking at the Climate Resilience Fund. It's, if we mitigate our climate issues, we will mitigate disasters. This is what these people think. And money goes out for this. And we have projects that will, quote unquote, save us from this kind of devastation. Your money, your taxpayer dollars. We want to give towns funding to help them hire consultants, engineers, and grant writers to apply for federal funding. So the inefficiency and the lack of reality of the state will hire people who will write, use my mother's term, sob stories to send to the federal government and get money. It's like when I was a kid and they would have prizes on the back of the comic book. And if you wrote a really good story and the person that wrote the best story got a bicycle, this is what they're doing, but they're doing it on a larger scale. Okay, got me. Let's move on. And the Deep proposes sharing the local or state match required for federal grants to ease the financial burden on communities. I'll tell you, Katie, how you ease the financial burden on communities. You don't do this stupid crap to begin with. But, anyway. Read that in a little bit. I did not credit the article. Shame on me. John Henry Smith. This is the Connecticut Mirror, and this is October 10th. Effectively about a week ago. She's busy handing out money. asking the local governments to beg for federal money because you get it. If we control the weather, we don't have to be concerned about these bad storms that are going to come. Now, put it this way. Let's go back to Katie. There's Katie. Is Katie perfect? Well, Katie's not perfect, right? What if Katie's got this wrong? What if Katie's making a mistake? What if we do get hit with some hellacious, horrific, beyond the pale storm, and we've got mandatory green power, and we've got mandatory you can't have fossil fuel, and we've got mandatory you can't burn wood in your home? Is Katie going to sit there and lay on the freeway to make sure that these trucks don't get in because they're going to damage the air? I mean, is this what we're looking at? Or are we going to rely on what we've got that's so much better than those wind turbines? They're going to turn so much power and they're going to have so much energy that we won't ever have to inhale a diesel fume again. Listen, I can't make up stuff this inane. And read down a little bit more. Bear with me just a bit. One other source of funding for climate change improvements would have been the passage of Senate Bill 11. Lawmakers did not pass that bill through last session. So let's look at Senate Bill 11, or the article leading to Senate Bill 11. Climate change legislation, that's going to do it, right? We're going to fix everything. There's the unaccountable again. There's Katie on the left. And the unaccountable's talking about solar power. Now, there's nothing wrong with solar power, but solar power needs to be developed. And we're going to have more climate bills. And it's greater for the community, says the unaccountable. And we're doing solar panels. It's going to be saving the school a heck of a lot of money and saving the environment. Of course, they're so environmentally wonderful that they don't know what to do with the solar panels once the solar panels burn out. They haven't figured that out yet, right? It's or like e-cars, right? It's okay to have little African kids going to mine the minerals and breaking their arms and coming back and breaking their fingers and losing their fingers, but you get to drive a really cool e-car. Isn't that great? I mean, I'm not saying these are bad technologies, but you can't accelerate them beyond the point where they could be accelerated. And of course, we've got some gold standards. New London and New Britain have adopted I kind of jumped around that. Here's some innovation. Stormwater, which enables cities to incentivize property owners to reduce paved surfaces and implement stormwater management measures. This provides municipalities with a revenue source to fund broader flood preservation project. Now, immediately, if I'm a property owner and the state wants me to do something that's going to be good for me, I'm going to become immediately very concerned, because what does the state do right? What has the state done right? These are my concerns. So basically, what we see happening with Katie, let's go back and look at this assemblage again. I think it actually is kind of suitable for framing. The unaccountable, Dick Blumenthal, Katie Elliker playing with his Palm Pilot, and these other two guys here on the right, I don't know who they are. They believe you can stop the storms by dealing with climate change issues. That's going to do everything. I do not have the words in my limited Rippewam High School vocabulary to say how stupid that is. You saw what Connecticut was on the map, right? But anyway, don't we have this is the, shall we say, the Democrats starting six or whatever. They're part of the first team going in. Do we have Republicans in this state? There's a rumor that there is something known as the Republican Party. And it's the object of the Republican Party, as far as I have been taught, going back to my remedial high school days, is to push against the Democrat Party and to effectuate the will of the people. The role of the Democrat Party going way back was to do the same thing based upon what was there in their, shall we say, objective. But basically, we have a situation now with people saying, well, let us apply for grants to have studies and to have engineering assessments to say, what can we do for climate change? Now, I am not against the environment, but basically, this is just botso nonsense. It's you don't have enough of an impact geographically, financially, or with any sort of resources to change anything. And you're not going to change the flow of the earth by spending our tax dollars to do studies. This is like beyond idiotic. So I would hope that we have political figures pushing back, yelling and screaming about this idiocy and this waste of taxpayer dollars. Katie knows I love her, but calling for her removal because she's bots, she's nuts, she's absolutely insane. How do you even get there with this? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because what are you going to do when this happens? It's the climate change study is really going to help you, right? But anyway, we do have Republicans in the state, and as typically that happens, Republicans have a cleaner, greener environmental policy plan. And they talk about it's always a better way with the Republican Party. How about the better way is common sense? The better way is removing this commissioner and getting to the matter of actually getting fossil fuel, embracing the Trump energy plan, frack, burn, drill, baby, drill, taking all of the fuel costs and driving them in half, putting money in people's pockets. They don't talk about that. I mean, my Lord, if you say Donald Trump to just about 95% of Connecticut Republicans, I mean, it's like a vampire cross, just like, Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1960. That's what will happen. It's so inane. But you're not going to get to anywhere until you get to there. And when you have the fuel, when you're able to do it with the energy you have, then you can work on windmilling. Then you can work on electric cars. That's how it's going to happen. It's not going to happen by some sort of a green dream. But anyway, this goes back, I think, to the spring because Kevin Kelly was the Senate Majority Leader. And they talk about, we essentially want to do the same thing as Katie Dykes is doing, but we want to do it a little bit better. Honestly, you need to torch it and start over, but you don't get that from a Connecticut Republican. So if we look over here, it's adopt the EPA air quality standards that do not harm the ban of gas-powered vehicles. Now, what the Connecticut Republican will not tell you, and this is the thing, I am always furious at disingenuousness. SAT word. Meaning you're not really lying, but you're not really telling the truth and you're misleading. If you look at the federal EPA air quality standards towards e-cars, they are the Biden standards. Okay, you got that? They are not the Ronald Reagan standards. They are not the Donald Trump standards. They are the Biden standards. They do allow for the continued purchase and sale of gasoline-powered cars. However, the fuel requirements for these cars, what they call them the CAF requirements for miles per gallon, are so ridiculously high that the cars effectively, two things happen. They become, number one, unaffordable, and number two, entirely inefficient because it's sort of like, how could I put it? If you're driving your car, you're driving along and everything's working right, you don't have an issue. But if I say I'm going to save you gasoline by starving out the gasoline going into your fuel injector so you'll be able to get more miles to a gallon, your car is going to hesitate, it's going to stall, it's not going to perform well. And that's effectively what will be happening with these particular standards. It all goes back to the Obama administration, but they don't tell you that. And basically, that is an effective non-solution. And you go here, reduce vehicle emissions by expanding existing tax credits to all fuel efficient vehicles, making hybrids engines for half of the max credit of full electric, and encouraging flexible green work week schedules. Well, that's interesting. I own a business. How are you going to encourage a flexible green work week schedule? You're going to hand me money, so I will not be able to make my deadlines, and I won't be able to send people to the post office to get a critical filing in so somebody doesn't go to jail. I mean, so you're going to hand me an incentive to do that, and you're going to tell me how wonderful you are, but basically it's nonsensical. The other things, prioritize emission reductions by using historic federal and state investments for transportation and construction projects to open congestion bottlenecks. That's interesting. I tried doing that in Connecticut for, I don't want to tell you how many years I've been driving, but they've been spending money and reconstructing roads, and it only seems to get worse. Expanding public transportation and EV charging station infrastructure, and investing in roundabouts and smart traffic lights. Roundabouts are the most dangerous, most hideous, most toxic, whatever you want to call it, traffic appendages ever known to Earth and man and traffic, because it's people don't stop, people don't yield, people drive up on curves, people don't pay attention, they're texting as they're doing it. I mean, this is your quote unquote answer to this. You got to start leaning on people, folks. You really got, and especially Republicans. You know, those Republicans that don't get it, there's a couple that do, and they're darn good people, and I like them very much. But to people that, look at something like this saying, I have a better way to solve things, it is time for them to account for what their beliefs are. Let me just see if there's anything else. Carbon-free technology, it's interesting. I do not see the use of natural gas. I think that came later. I yelled at them because they wouldn't do it, and they started to yell about it or they started to say something about it when the whole Eversource farce happened, as far as the public benefits charge and the disclosure of stuff like that. But put more pressure on the state's federal delegation to push for clean energy policies in our to our west that create the pollution that damages air quality in Connecticut. So you've got 7 or 8 bullet points here of maybe 2 or 3 are useful solutions. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help anything economically. It doesn't stop this nonsense from happening, and it can no way deal with something like that. None of this is useful. And let me stop the share here if I can. I'll stop the share. Let me. Stupid old Jewish man named Henry Kissinger said and this is going back to, maybe when I was in high school, when he was Nixon's Secretary of State, he who controls energy controls the world. And if you control energy, you can pretty much dance to your own music or oil. And what Connecticut wants to do is uncontrol energy. Connecticut wants to take stupid, inane, nonsensical, non-useful energy policy and say, we're doing the right thing for you. because we're protecting the environment. Well, actually, the environment kind of protects itself because the way that people leave the state and they take their cars with them, it does have kind of a definitional effect. But that all said, it's Connecticut effectively is ceding control, and one political group wants to cede control more aggressively than the other. That's the only thing. There's no constructive, maybe a little, and I apologize if you're campaigning and you're campaigning on the Trump energy package and you're campaigning on fossil fuel. I may not know you're doing that, so I make an apology to you. But generally, there's nothing out there saying that Republicans are doing anything like that. And what that effectively does is allows the lunatics and the Katie Dykes of the world to effectively continue to run roughshod over us all. And we've got to reach into our pockets, and we've got to pay more for Eversource power, and we've got to pay more for gasoline, and we've got to pay more for delivery charges on that dreaded propane. I mean, oh God, that's probably the most racist thing if you ever can think of, or burning wood. It's like a lot of people they set up homes and they decided to use wood power to power their plenty of wood in some places. And, they're fine with it. They're able to saw their wood. They don't cause a problem. They depend on no one to do it. It is a very interesting way to go about things. And these are the most redneck, racist, uncaring, insensitive slobs that ever walked the earth. I don't know. And this is the thing. Yeah, I am a broken record. My father called me a broken record. I will tell you the same thing over and over and over again. But maybe, I don't know, maybe that's how it gets through. We're talking, it was yesterday, and very long story made very, very short. I ended up doing a quick impromptu segment with Lee Elsey on 94.9 News and Stimulating Talk. Excuse me, the best morning show in the state with the biggest amount of viewers. I don't care how many awards you hand out to people that aren't Lee Elsey. No one works like that, man. But anyway, but what I said is, talking about my Savior, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, he would always say to the apostles, again, I say to you, again, I say to you, again, I say to you. He believed in the value of repetition. He believed in the value of overkill. So do I. So I'm repeating it again. When your heating bills are sky high this year, when you look at your public benefits charge, when you see what's taking place, when you see the cost of what you're pumping into your gas tank, when your elderly parent calls you from the senior apartment and she's cold and she's saying, I have to turn down the heat because I can't afford it. When all of that is taking place, think of Katie Dykes. Think of the Connecticut Republican Party. Think of, quote unquote, the sensitivities to climate change. These are all the people that are making you freeze, folks. Simple as that and just as difficult. Again, it's not about polluting the air. It's about being sensitive in approaches. You are not going to stop the curvation of the earth. You are not going to stop what the earth will do. You're not going to cause that. A little postage stamp state like Connecticut is not going to do anything like that. Meanwhile, China can do whatever in the hell it wants, can burn whatever it wants, can pollute however, and nobody says a word. It's just, it's the obvious stuff that is so sickening and so terrible, and they want for us to believe it. They want for us to accept it. And if we speak out against it, we're all these horrible things. I've had enough. I have really had enough. I hope you have too, but I hope you haven't had enough of this show. We got a lot of ways to go. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. We will be back with the rest of the show right after this.
Hey, the roof is leaking and the rain's falling on my head. It won't stop. The roof is leaking and the rain's falling on my head. I need a mop. I cry so hard, teardrops on my bed. Drippity drop, yeah. She packed up her bags and she moved out on a midnight train. She got no brain. She packed up her bag and she moved out on a midnight train. The girl's insane. She took my heart, tears rolling down my drain, just like rain. Tell you about it. My buddy come to see me to give me a tip. I said, now listen here, friend, I tell you I'm hip. Why don't you mind your own business? Shut your lip. I know when my girl give me the slip. I said the roof is leaking, rain's falling on my head. Oh yeah, I cry so hard, teardrops on my bed, all over the floor. That's what I said. Hey, 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 hey. Well, my buddy come to see me to give me a tip. I said, now listen here, friend, I tell you I'm hip. Why don't you mind your own business? Close your lip. I know when my girl give me the slip. I said the rail is leaking, rain's falling on my head, drippity dry. Well, I cry so hard, tears flowing on my bed, on the floor, on the rug, on the wall. Yeah, you get it, say it, oh yeah, oh yeah, say it, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hello fun seekers. Since we like to mix fun with business, please enjoy another video classic clip, courtesy of the producers of 30 with Tony.
In recent years, crime in this country has grown 9 times as fast as population. At the current rate, the crimes of violence in America will double by 1972. We cannot accept that kind of future for America. We owe it to the decent and law-abiding citizens of America to take the offensive against the criminal forces that threaten their peace and their security, and to rebuild respect for law across this country. I pledge to you, the wave of crime is not going to be the wave of the future in America.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. And I really thank you for all you have done for me and given to me. And this is my way of giving you something in return. And I was sharing with the cousin of a very good friend. We were friends in high school, and we used to double date. Actually, back before we had cars, so we'd have to rely on our parents to take us to places and that kind of thing. And our parents did it uncomplainingly. And one time we went to the Roxbury Fair in Stamford. I don't know if they still have the Roxbury Fair in Stamford. They probably overbuilt that land, years ago. But they had this ride called the Tilt-A-Whirl. And, my friend's mother took us and our dates to the fair. We weren't of driving age. And she was kind of cute. She kind of said, you kids want to go to the fair? Yeah. And she said, well, you're going to bring chickies. Yeah, it's yeah, I guess if that's what you want to call them. But yeah, that's what we're going to bring dates. And so she drove us and actually took us to the fair. And we ended up in this ride called the Tilt-A-Whirl. And I guess it's like a ride that kind of goes like that, and then it kind of goes like that, and then it kind of goes like that. And we got off the ride, and I was physically ill. My friend was physically ill, but the girls were fine. And, we're trying to act cool and not throw up and that kind of thing. It was absolutely unbelievable. So I don't know if there's any moral of that story, but I think of it from time to time. And other than the fact that I haven't been on a ride since, that's going back over 50 years ago. But I do have a joke for you. I cannot let you go without a joke. And you think about what kind of jokes you want to do. You want to have jokes about dating or family or religion, or this one is education. You've got kids in a school, and there is a teacher, and the teacher is asking them questions about what different animals will provide. So the teacher says, okay, what does a chicken provide? And one kid says meat, the other kid says eggs, and she says, hey, very good. Okay, what does a fish provide? And the kid says, well, it provides a fish dinner. Really, really good. You guys are bright. What does a cow provide? What does a fat cow provide? And the kid, oh yeah, I know what the fat cow provides. She provides homework. Listen, probably going on in a school right now somewhere near you. Don't look at me like I'm some sort of a horrible person. I'm only telling you the truth. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. And I look forward to seeing you next week for an even greater show. So long.